Hi there, and today we are going to learn about how to create a scrolling animation on Canva. So here I am in my Canva homepage, and then let's go ahead and create our design. So you can choose either if you want to create a presentation or a video. So we will just do the same steps, but just that when you create a presentation, so your scrolling animation will not be in a loop. So I prefer using the video so that you can have your scrolling animation repeating in a loop. So just go ahead and choose what you want, but I will choose video. So from here, you will choose the size of the video that you want to use. So just go ahead and choose from the different templates right here, but I will choose this one, the Facebook video, so that I have an even square for my design. So when I click on it, we are now here in the Canva editor. And creating a scrolling animation is actually pretty easy. So you just need to follow my steps. So for example, if you want a scrolling animation using text, so I'll just insert a text right here. And then I'll just type in scrolling animation. Then I will have a dash right here as like a divider. So I can copy this, but first I'll change the size to about 36. Then I'll paste the text like this. Then what I will do is that I will extend the text until it has only one line. So I'll remove some of the text right here. So for example, I have this text. So I'll just adjust the size. Then what we can do is that we can add like a shape right here. So let's go to elements, go to shapes. Then I will add a square shape as a border. For example, let's choose a purple color. And then make sure that the shape is layered at the back of your text so that it doesn't overlays the text that we have right here. Then I'll just adjust the size right here. And then now what we can do is that we can group the two elements together. So just highlight both of them and then click group. And then we can now add our animation, which is the scrolling animation. So you can just select the text and then click animate. Then from here, we can just choose the drift animation so that we have our scrolling animation right here. So you can change the intensity if you want a slower scrolling animation or if you want a faster scrolling animation. Then you can choose if you want it to move to the right or to the left or upwards or downwards. So since we have this design right here, so it's best if we choose left or right. And then we can now go ahead and preview our design. And then we already have our scrolling animation right here. Then what we can do next is that we can now just create our design using the technique that I created earlier for the scrolling animation. So you can do a lot of things. So for example, we can change the background right here. And then you can have like a slant for your scrolling animation like this. You can duplicate your design. So duplicate it right here. Then you can make it like a crisscross animation. Then we can change the color. For example, I'll change this to a blue, a darker purple color right here. Then I can copy this again. For for example, duplicate, and then I can make it like a vertical scrolling animation right here. And then we can preview the design so that it will look like this. So you can do a lot of things with the scrolling animation. So for example, I'll insert a text right here. And then I'll say scrolling animation tutorial. And then what we can do is that we can change the font style. For example, right here, choose a font style that you want to use. So for example, I'll choose Brick Sans, and then I'll make it bigger. Then I can also add a shape right here. So for example, I'll add this square shape with a round corner. Then I can change the layer of this so that I can send it to the back of the text. Or what you can also do is that you can go to position, go to layers, and then you can adjust your layers right here. And then from here, I'll just align it to the text. And I can change the color, for example, like this. And then we can also change the font style of our scrolling animations right here. For example, I'll choose like this one. And then I can choose the same font for the other scrolling animations. And then we can go ahead and preview our scrolling animation right here. So you can do a lot of dynamic designs using the scrolling animation. So we can also add a scrolling animation to this part right here. So maybe I'll change it to animate. Then I'll choose the drift animation again. But this time I will choose an upward an upward drift. And then we have our design right here. Then we can click preview. And then here is our scrolling animation. But it overlaps the shape right here, so we can just adjust it so that it doesn't overlap our shape. And that is basically it. So you can do a lot of things. So instead of the drift animation, you can also do custom animation. So for example, I'll just duplicate this page. Then I'm just going to delete some of the elements right here. And then I'll show you how to do a custom animation. So we can also achieve a scrolling animation as well using custom animations. So for example, I will ungroup these two elements and then go to animate. Then I will remove the animation. And actually I can still have this as a group. So let me group it again. And then make sure you are selecting the text only. Then go to animate. Then we will create a custom animation right here. But what we're going to do is that we're going to adjust the text where it is at the end of the shape. So let's say right here. Then let's type in the scrolling animation text here again. Then from here, we can Now animate the custom animation. So what we're going to do is that we need to hold shift while dragging the element. So we just press the shift key and then click your element, then drag it to your preferred direction. So since we are going to have a scrolling animation, so I will be dragging the animation to the right. So as you can see, the animation is scrolling to the right. So let me repeat that again so that I have a better animation. So for example, like that. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to change the movement style so that it looks cleaner. So you can choose smooth if you want, but I prefer to use steady so that it has the same speed of the scrolling animation. So if you want to make it faster, you can just change the speed right here, or you can just select the slowest speed. So if this is still too fast for you, you can just delete the animation and then do it again in a slower way. So for example, like this. So I will drag the element in a slower way than what I did earlier. And then let's change it to steady. And then as you can see, I now have a slower animation than what I did earlier. And then you can now click done. Then you can now preview. So it will show the first page first before going to the second page. So it just depends on your preference, whether if you want to create a scrolling animation using the custom animation or the drift animation right here. So personally, I like the drift animation since it's more cleaner, but it just depends on your preference. And then that is basically it. That is how we can create a scrolling animation here in Canva. I hope you learned how to do it, and thank you for watching.